Well, now you can. An Airbnb in Dallas replicated the film's family home, complete with booby traps like swinging paint cans, toy cars on the floor, and a Michael Jordan cutout to scare away thieves. The experience, named the Kevin Holiday Classic Plus Pizza and Traps, runs about $300 a night. But if you're not up for spending the night alone, don't worry. The house can fit up to 6 people. I think that sounds kind of fun. I think we should take the 5 down there. See if my colleagues think. Well, if you think you know yourself pretty well, you may want to ask your dog about that. A recent survey found that 7 out of 10 Americans believe their dogs know them better than they know themselves. The survey also found 68% say their dog is the only reason they kept their sanity during the lockdown, and over 60% of Americans say they don't know where they'd be without the love and support of their dogs. And of course, I feel the same way about Jasper. Now, according to a recent survey by the U.S. Census Bureau, 2.7 million members of households with children say they often do not have enough to eat. Joining me now, the president and CEO of the YMCA, Kevin Washington, on how they are helping to fight America's hunger crisis, especially right now in COVID times. Wonderful to see you, Kevin. I know that you've had a lot to do this year. Tell us about the scope of the need and the increase in it this year that you've seen.
Well, it's good to be with you again, Dana. First of all, let me say that the Y has been focused on feeding kids for over 9 years, feeding healthy meals to our kids in our summer camp and after-school programs. And right now, we are the largest provider of nonprofit serving young people meals. What has happened, as you know, during the pandemic, which has become a health crisis and economic crisis, the need for food in communities has risen exponentially. For us, just to give you an example, in 2019, the YMCA served 25 million meals. Just in 5 months between March and August, we served over 37 million meals to families and children during this particular crisis. So you can see the need has really grown exponentially, and the Y has partnered with several individuals and communities to ensure that we're able to provide meals to those young individuals and families who need it.
You know, I think of the Y, of course, as you know, that I went to the Schlesman Y there in Denver for all sorts of things, gymnastics lessons, swimming lessons, summer fun, day camp, things like that. But also the Y is a community's sort of safe place to go where you don't have to be worried that there will be any stigma attached to you if you go to ask for help. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. As I've mentioned, during this pandemic, what has been so important as the Y pivoted is they have been a vital community asset, meeting communities where they are and addressing their needs around food insecurity, around essential child care, in terms of supporting seniors from engaging in isolation, working with partners to do blood banks. So during this pandemic, the kinds of issues that we are engaged in has risen, and the Y has really met those needs in communities across this country. Let me just give you one example of how that has been met. In the YMCA of Memphis and Mid-South, they usually fed 700 kids during the course of a day. To now, they're feeding over 23,000 families and kids across the spectrum. It really is a testament to how we have been able to partner in communities to ensure we're meeting them where they are and meeting their specific needs. Absolutely.
Well, I love the YMCA, and I know, Kevin, I'm sorry, we're going to have to wrap it up here. Kevin Washington, you do amazing work, and we thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. And thank you for joining us, everyone. Great week, I hope. I'm Dana Perino. I'll see you on the 5. All sorts of shenanigans. You know, we have Facebook Friday. That's always a blast. Hey, Hemmer, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I fired a few questions for Facebook Friday today, so I expect full service.
Oh, good. We'll try to figure out which ones are yours.
I want to learn about your life, Perino. Have a great day, okay, and a good weekend, okay? 5 o'clock.
Bye.
Good afternoon. It's Friday, almost made in America. I'm Bill Hemmer. Suggestion is that the White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows ordered Dr. Stephen Hahn to authorize the vaccine by today. Resign. Now, our reporting suggests it did not go that far. Whatever the case, we do know this. As of this hour, the first doses may start as early as Monday. This week, however, we marked a milestone in America. The daily number of deaths earlier this week hit more than 3,000 in one day. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar kicks off our hour here. And, sir, welcome back to our program and a good afternoon to you.
Good to be with you, Bill. Thanks for having me.
I saw a couple of interviews earlier today. You say the shots go in the arms Monday or Tuesday. I think that's fantastic news. What's wrong with yesterday?
Well, we just have to get the FDA approval done, but I'll tell you, today's a historic day for the American people. At 7 a.m. today, the FDA announced that they had communicated to Pfizer that we will be approving their emergency use authorization as a product of FDA's independent scientific review process. So we should be getting that approval signed at some point today, tomorrow, as soon as FDA can get everything worked out with Pfizer. And we're already shipping the kits that we use to administer.
I mean, listen, I'm hearing Todd Beamer's voice here. Let's roll. Let's go.
Absolutely.
Listen, amazing work. Operation Warp Speed has succeeded in ways that no one could imagine back in January or February earlier in this year.
Bill,
you broke down, here's the question. You broke down walls of bureaucracy everywhere that no one ever thought about. Did we not go far enough, however? Should we have reformed the FDA to get that out already?
Bill, listen, this is 11 months since this novel pathogen arrived on our shores. It's never been done before. You know, the previous fastest vaccines were, I think, 4 years to get out. And I'll tell you, there were a couple people who did think it could get done. President Trump thought it could get done. He told me we can get this done faster. I told him I thought, given my knowledge of the pharmaceutical industry and of the resources of the U.S. government, we could get it done. And we did Operation Warp Speed, and here we are today. I mean, this is unbelievable, the hope for people.
So I know you're with HHS, and some of this conversation may not be fair to you because I'm asking you questions about the FDA. But here's what the president shot at earlier today. It's still a big old slow turtle. Get the damn vaccines out now. Dr. Hahn at Steve FDA. Stop playing games and start saving lives. Would you just address that comment there about the speed?
Well, listen, President Trump has from day one had a tremendous sense of urgency about our work, but he has also given me the ability and the Secretary of Defense the ability to run the process with independence here, and that's what's led to these incredible results. But we're all, every day, every hour, focused on a tremendous sense of urgency. But at the end of the day, what the American people need to know is the FDA has and will only make decisions based on their independent judgment of science, evidence, and the law.
Okay, we wait. New York City is going to ban indoor dining. Is that the right call?
You know, we try to defer to our mayors and our governors about the community mitigation steps that they're going to take and whether they do it by law or by advice. But let's be clear, we are seeing spread of disease from people in overcrowded indoor restaurants and overcrowded bars. But then we see actions against, say, outdoor dining.
Could I stop you on that? Only because in New York, the law is 25% indoors. So they're going to go to 0 as of Monday. And these people are going to suffer greatly. Where is the data that supports indoor dining spreads COVID-19?
Well, we do have data saying that in those indoor dinings and indoor bar settings, we have spread. But whether it's 25%, 50%, or 0, we don't have precise levels of data like that. We did see with Phoenix, those outbreaks in June and July that we saw in the southeast and southwest, by basically getting people to not have such overcrowded indoor dining and indoor bar activity, we were able, and with wearing masks, we were able to get the spread down. But then we see other actions like restrictions on outdoor dining and actually like restrictions on just outdoor activities. And then you start saying, where is the science and the evidence around that? Because people are tired, and if we do restrictions or mitigation requirements that are not based in evidence, if people don't get the why, if they don't understand why they're being asked to sacrifice, they're just not going to comply. So
I think you're exactly right about that, and I think when the governor comes out and makes that announcement today, he's got to back it up as sort of the argument you're making right now. 3 minutes, 2 more topics here. When can a family in Tennessee or Atlanta or anywhere in America, when can they walk into a Kroger or a Walgreens or a CVS and get the vaccine?
Yeah, so here's the timeline. By the end of this month, in just a couple of weeks, we think we'll have 20 million people vaccinated with these Pfizer, and in a week, the Moderna vaccine, we hope, will have the same approval process. So 20 million this month, up to 50 million first vaccinations total by the end of January. We believe we will have 100 million shots in arms by the end of February. That means that by the end of February into March, depending on our governors, they make the call. Depending on our governors, we could see that kind of general vaccination where you can go to your CVS, your Walgreens, your Kroger, at your Walmart. Get your vaccinations just like your flu vaccinations could really be beginning in that late February into March period.
Okay, so let's play it out over the next 6 months. I spoke with a colleague of yours yesterday, Eric Hargan from HHS. He's very optimistic. He thinks life in America goes back to normal in the month of June. Is that how you see it?
I would agree with Deputy Secretary Hargan there. I think once we're going to have enough vaccine for every American in the second quarter of next year, and it's not like it's a one-time event. Like I said, we're going to be putting out tens of millions of doses possibly each week, vaccinating more and more people, getting more safety, more security as we go. And by the end of the second quarter, you know, if the American people cooperate here, we should have people vaccinated. And I do see by next summer things being back to a much more normal existence.
How would you define American cooperation there?
Well, getting vaccinated. So people for whom it's indicated getting vaccinated. We need people to step up and get vaccinated.
So we could see 30,000 people in a baseball stadium in June? Can we forecast that?
Maybe the end of June, maybe July, August. It's possible.
But
it's possible,
early
Bill.
summer
That's
for
the
sure.
amazing thing. Isn't that incredible?
I agree with you. But that's for the United States, right? Like global normality would then turn around at what point in 2021?
Well, this is where America is going to play a leading role. And President Trump at the vaccine summit that he did earlier this week signed an executive order where he says he's going to protect Americans first with vaccines. But, you know, I've got contracts for up to 3 billion doses of vaccine. We've built incredible manufacturing capacity here in the United States. And once we're taken care of, we're going to be able to give away or sell the excess vaccine that we've produced and also make that capacity available to the rest of the world. So the rest of the world will also be able to be getting back to normalcy through America's leadership in global public health.
Okay, we're watching the wires here. We'll see whether or not the FDA punches through that approval. Secretary Azar, thank you for coming on today and taking all the questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Bill.
You bet. Now to the fallout from Hunter Biden's taxes and financial dealings. Our corporate cousin, the Wall Street Journal, reporting that AG Bill Barr knew about the probes into the president-elect's son since at least the spring, but he worked to keep them from going public during the campaign. Hunter Biden responding to the investigation of his taxes in Delaware, saying that he acted legally and appropriately, and Mike Emanuel picks up the reporting in Washington from there. Mike, good afternoon.
Bill, good afternoon. A spokeswoman for the Attorney General declined to comment on that Wall Street Journal report when I reached out today. But Bill Barr was pretty clear back in May he did not want the criminal justice system in the middle of the presidential election.
We live in a very divided country right now, and I think that it is critical that we have an election where the American people are allowed to make a decision, a choice, between President Trump and Vice President Biden based on a robust debate of policy issues.
A short time ago, a key Biden surrogate praised Barr for, in his view, doing the right thing.
Anything about this other than some brief press reports? What I read was he was following the rules of the Department of Justice. If he followed the rules, that's a good thing.
But a White House ally vented his frustration with the Justice Department on this Hunter Biden issue.
How long did the FBI have that laptop for Hunter Biden? About a year now. Why did they suppress it? What were they doing? Why did we not know any of this? Why wasn't Congress given that information so we could conduct investigations and hearings?
There are various investigations looking into Hunter Biden's business and financial dealings and his taxes. There's also the president-elect's brother, Jim. Both Jim and Hunter have been accused of trading on their family name to land lucrative overseas business deals, including a deal with a Chinese energy firm. A powerful Republican Senate committee chair who was already digging into these matters says Biden Inc. could be a major problem.
I think the vice president has all kinds of legal jeopardy here. When they, if it's a true investigation, they're going to start opening up all these financial transactions. This is very troubling. But that's where we published our report at the end of September, and the press, the media ignored it, and they had an enormous impact on our elections.
Some Republicans are now expressing the concern with the new president coming in January 20th. U.S. attorneys investigating Hunter Biden and potentially others could be replaced. So the case is being made. They must be allowed to complete their work.
Thank you, Mike. Mike Emanuel on that today. The Biden team, by the way, was asked 0 questions today about Hunter. Molly Hemingway weighs in on the media coverage of that in a moment. But first, there is this. U.S. Supreme Court, after more than a dozen states back Texas in its election challenge. Andy McCarthy will tell us the state of that in a moment. And Joe Biden heads to Georgia next week after warning the defund the police slogan could hurt Democrats in those races. Carl Rove will give us the lay of the land in both races in Georgia coming up next.
I will put my employees on unemployment. The jobs will disappear permanently, and I also will be out of a job and probably bankrupt.
Oh, my goodness. You know, Tommy, the rationale behind these shutdowns from the governor of New York and some of his counterparts in places like California and Maryland, some of these other places, is that the spikes do happen at restaurants, even though the data is a little inconsistent on it. But you're doing everything for distancing and all the other provisions, both you and Amanda. And you, have you had any reported cases that have come from your restaurants?
No, we've had no reported cases come from our restaurant, okay? And just like Amanda said, we're not even making money. We're just going through the motions here. And what he said today was 74% of these cases come from in-home gatherings, with only 1.4% coming from restaurants.
Right.
So if you close the restaurants, you're forcing people to do more in-home gatherings. Makes no sense.
You know what's weird about it, Amanda? All of this is happening as we're preparing to see a vaccine maybe out as soon as Monday. Another one that could come out maybe as soon as next Thursday or Friday. So in the middle of all this hopeful news, you're shutting down. It's weird.
Yeah, it's hopeful news with the side of really distressing news. We still need help. The vaccine, by the time everybody gets vaccinated or we have enough herd immunity, it's going to be a couple months down the road at least. We need help now.
Hang in there, guys. We'll see what's happening in Washington. We'll get an update on that. But I'm very familiar. This might strike you as odd that I am familiar with both your restaurants. I know I don't look like a restaurant visitor because I'm so thin and fit, but I actually am. And in both of your cases, I'm a big fan. But listen, guys, hang in there. I'm sure better days are ahead. But, man, it does seem like you have been unfairly targeted here. But we'll watch it closely, and we've got your back. We've also got the latest to both of these fine managers, interest here. What's happening on the vaccine front? It's ready availability come Monday, then deciding who gets it and when. But not only who gets it and when, but how it gets to you, period. It's a little tricky. I'll explain. Teasing, but not quite done. The official write-up from the Food and Drug Administration on that Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine could come any moment. Mark Meredith in Silver Spring, Maryland, with what happens after that. Hey, Mark.
Neil, good afternoon. Will it be happening tonight or tomorrow? That is still the big question when it comes to the FDA approving Pfizer's vaccine candidate. Dr. Stephen Hahn is denying reports that his job was threatened over whether or not it would get done today. But there's still a lot of questions about what's been going on behind the scenes here at the FDA. President Trump has been making it clear all day long he wants them to move as fast as possible. He had a very sharp tweet for the FDA this morning. He even called them a big old slow turtle. And he also said that he wanted to get the damn vaccines out now, stop playing games, and start saving lives. But on Thursday, just 24 hours ago, we were talking about this, Neil, an FDA advisory committee approved Pfizer's vaccine. We're still waiting on that final green light from the FDA for emergency authorization. Canada and the UK, they have already approved it for use. And you may be wondering, what is the holdup? Well, we're getting an idea from Dr. Hahn himself, who wrote, the FDA is finalizing the necessary documents to ensure that patients and providers have the information that they need to make informed decisions and to safely administer the vaccine. This is a critical part of what the agency does to promote and protect the public health. While they are still waiting to give that final green light, today the FDA told the CDC as well as Operation Warp Speed to essentially get ready to make sure that their vaccine distribution facilities and plans were ready to go. All indications are that they are, and they are still waiting again to get these injections started, potentially as early as Monday is what we're hearing from the Health and Human Services Department. So Monday looks like for the first vaccinations, but it's not going to be going out to you and me, Neil, right away. Of course, it's going to be going out to those first responders, those people on the front lines, and then continue to roll out throughout early 2021. Neil.
I hate to break it to you, Mark. You're so young. You're going to be last in line for this. So I get yours. That's the plan. Mark Meredith, great seeing you again.
Fair enough,
Great
boss.
reporting on this as well. All right, there you go. Mike Tobin with us in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Now, Mike, so I understand they're all set up with the manufacturing to get this out, but that's going to be a big project, isn't it?
It'll be a huge project, but if approval of this emergency use authorization, if it goes through on Friday, if it goes through on Saturday, they can start moving vaccines out of this massive facility here in Kalamazoo, Michigan, as well as another in Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin, within 24 hours. 2.9 million doses can move right away. Half of the supply needs to stay here in cold storage because the Pfizer vaccine in particular requires a follow-up shot. The trial showed one shot was 50% effective at fighting the virus. A second shot proved 95% effective. Now, Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar said if the EUA is approved on the expected timeline, shots could start going into people's arms as early as Monday or Tuesday. Other officials say the pandemic isn't over, but at least there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
It means we can see the end of the pandemic. It's really in our sight. With 20 million people being able to be vaccinated in December, 30 million in January, and another 50 million in February, just with the two vaccines we know about now, Pfizer and Moderna, we know the end of the pandemic is in sight, but we still have a lot of work to do until most people can get vaccinated and the pandemic goes away.
Now, UPS and FedEx will be handling this very sophisticated super cold supply or shipping chain that will get the vaccine out to its points of use. Once it's at the points of use, states will have control over who gets the vaccine first. And as you were talking a little bit with Mark Meredith, the priority is going to go to be those healthcare workers and then at-risk populations like people in nursing homes. Things along those lines. Neil?
Got it, Mike. Thank you very much. Mike Tobin in Michigan on all of that. I want to go to Warner Thomas right now. Mr. Thomas is the Oxnard Health CEO, one of the biggest in Louisiana, certainly largest nonprofit healthcare company, and how they will go about getting this distributed to folks. Mr. Thomas, thank you for taking the time here. How do you go about getting this out to folks? Because it's one thing to approve something. It's quite another to then get it out into people's, well, I guess in this case, arms. But how do you do it?
Well, Neil, thanks for letting me be with you today. We've been preparing for this for literally months for this day that hopefully is coming next week. We have 5 of the ultra cold -80 freezers that are deployed across Louisiana. We have 26 of the -20 freezers deployed across Louisiana. We anticipate, hopefully with the emergency authorization to get 9,400 doses approximately on Monday. That's our anticipation. And we would begin vaccinating our healthcare workers immediately upon receipt of the vaccine. So we've been working on this plan for some time, and we are ready even today, should it come today, but we're certainly ready Monday should the approval be done and we receive vaccine on Monday.
Apparently, there's enormous pressure on the FDA to get this out and in fact, to do so and give the green light today. The Washington Post was reporting that the White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, told the FDA Commissioner Stephen Hahn to submit his resignation if the agency does not clear the nation's first coronavirus vaccine by day's end. Do you know anything about that, or is that undue pressure? And if true, does that worry you?
Yeah, I don't know a lot about that. I think the important thing here is that this is done right, and that the appropriate process is followed. I think as we've heard from patients and heard from our healthcare workers, I think folks want to make sure there are no corners cut. And I think the FDA, working in conjunction with the White House and with the administration, I know they're going to get this right and do it appropriately. Once that's done, we're ready to take the vaccine and vaccinate folks. So I think everybody wants to make sure this is done appropriately. We do know that there's, a certain percentage of the population that is worried about getting the vaccine because they feel like maybe this has been done too quickly. But once again, I think the appropriate process is being followed, and that's what we all want to see.
You do raise a good point. I guess the questions first started last week, right, when the United Kingdom approved it for their citizens. I believe Bahrain came after them, and Canada a couple of days ago, and that we're still waiting for FDA. Do you trust then that the FDA is being very careful, that it's certainly not rushing, and that this report about pressure coming on the White House to get it out like pronto by the end of the day is unnecessary.
Yeah, it's hard for me. I can't really comment whether that's necessary or unnecessary. What I would say is we are confident the FDA is going through the right process. Our physicians have reviewed all of the documentation from the FDA and feel very confident about what they're seeing. I think the fact that we need to get the right guidance on storage and any other concerns about how we administer the vaccine is important. We were part of the Pfizer trial, so we are very familiar with the ultra cold storage and how to handle that and how to do those vaccines. But once again, I think making sure we can ensure the American public that this is done right and all the processes are done appropriately is very important.
And you would honor, obviously you're everywhere, but you would honor the protocols of whatever the governor is calling for, right? I mean, there are wide, protocols about those healthcare workers, those are nursing homes, older, more vulnerable patients, and the rest. That seems to be the guidelines that folks are getting, no matter where they live, right?
Correct. And we're going to follow the CDC guidelines. We've been in contact with the governor's office here in Louisiana. We've identified our first wave is approximately 10,000 healthcare workers that would be in phase 1A. And we've got those folks identified. We think we can vaccinate them actually within 10 days, that we could get that group done. And as we get the second shipment of vaccine, hopefully in the second week, we will continue to vaccinate folks into 1B. But once again, we'll follow the CDC guidelines. We've had close connections with the governor of Louisiana, who's done a great job in the plans and the distribution of the vaccine. So we are ready to go as soon as we get approval.
And real quickly, the 10-day time target is for both doses, right? The first dose, and then some days later, the second dose, correct?
No, actually, there's a 21-day delay between the first dose and the second dose. The 10 days I'm talking about is that would be the period of time it would take us to vaccinate the first 10,000 people. We want to do this in a wave progression just because, we're concerned there could be some side effects and we don't want to vaccinate all of our people in 1 or 2 days. We're doing this over a few day period of time. We've deployed the right nurses and the right technicians to help us in this process, and we'll be doing this across all of our facilities in Louisiana.
Understood, sir. Thank you for clarifying that for me. Warner Thomas, the Oxford Health CEO, they're going to have a big responsibility here, just getting that out to the fine folks that have been waiting for a long, long time. By the way, again, sometime tonight, we just might get the official FDA clearance, so whether this Washington Post story is true or not as to whether it's put undue pressure on the FDA commissioner to go ahead and get this done tonight or just submit his resignation, be that as it may. Tomorrow we'll officially know one way or the other if it's going to be now or it's going to wait until Monday. 10 a.m. tomorrow, we'll be on it, all over it. In the meantime, all over Hunter Biden. His father commented on all of this just minutes ago with our own Peter Doocy after this.